Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our neuroscientists across the different time zones of the globe. And as it has been an Indian tradition that we start our functions with prayer to Goddess Saraswati, Goddess of Wisdom, we play the prayer for Ma Saraswati first, and I request you, all the audience, to mute your mics and stop your videos. Thank you all. Now, it's my privilege to give the welcome address. The special respected dignitaries, guest of honor, Professor Apparao Podili, Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, Professor P.N. Tandon, a father figure in the field of neurosciences, founder president, NBRC, chief guest of the function, Professor M.K. Thakur, Dean, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Professor Vinay K. Khanna, Secretary, Headquarters, IAN, Professor Pankaj Seth, General Secretary, IAN, and Professor S. Dayananda, Dean SLS, University of Hyderabad, Professor P.K. Seth, who is one of the founder of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, currently NASI Senior Scientist and Chairman, ILSI India, Professor V.S. Ramachandran, outstanding scientist, well known in neuroscience community globally, joining us from San Diego, Professor Suresh Ratan from University of Aarhus, Denmark, and Professor William J. Schwartz, and all our eminent neuroscientists, colleagues, friends, and students. It is our distinct pleasure, myself, Anita Jagota, and Dr. Shashi Bala Singh, co-host and president of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Director NIPER Hyderabad, to welcome you all to the Indian Academy of Neurosciences e-conference and 38th annual conference of the Indian Academy of Neurosciences with theme Basic and Clinical Neurosciences, Bridging the Gaps, is being jointly organized by the Department of Animal Biology, School of Life Sciences, University of Hyderabad, Institute of Eminence, and the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, NIPER Hyderabad, from 4th to 7th October 2020. Every year, a large number of neuroscientists from across the world come together and contribute to the success of our annual meetings. This year, however, owing to the unprecedented circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are unable to hold the conference in person as traditionally done in view of the existing travel.
Anita, please unmute.
Anita, please unmute your mic.
Please be loud, madam.
Could you
Please
all
be loud.
hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
now. Please go
The
ahead.
conference will be
Yeah,
held
yeah.
between 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. to encourage and welcome the participation of neuroscientists from different time zones. No, everything is in order? Okay. As head of the Department of Animal Biology, School of Life Sciences, University of Hyderabad, I would like to inform that the Department of Animal Biology is equipped with the state-of-art laboratory facilities and offers a range of graduate programs, including MSc in Animal Biotechnology, Integrated MSc PhD in Animal Biotechnology, and PhD in Animal Biology. Department is home to reputed faculty members who receive independent funding from various national DST, DBT, CSIR, UGC, ICMR, DRDO, and international funding agencies and biotechnology industries. Currently, as the school comprises 5 departments: animal biology, biochemistry, plant sciences, biotechnology, and bioinformatics, and systems and computational biology, we are able to do interdisciplinary research in an integrated manner. Conference participants are comprising of distinguished scientists, experts, PhD scholars, postdoctoral fellows, postgraduate and undergraduate students from India, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Malaysia, Australia, Japan, United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, France, Portugal, USA, Switzerland, and Denmark, and so on. The sessions are organized as keynote lecture, distinguished lecture, plenary lectures, special orations, B.K. Bachawat Memorial Lecture, K.T. Shetty Orations, and young scientist colloquia, poster sessions, special lectures on technique. Additionally, there will be post-satellite symposia and satellite meetings. Keeping in mind the diverse background of attending delegates, these sessions have been planned to satisfy the scientific temperament of all the participants involved. We have opened the inaugural function and all the plenary lectures for all students and people interested in neuroscience through YouTube and the Facebook. We have taken all precautions from our side, but still some people may have some inconvenience in connecting, for which we very much regret, but I'm sure that you will find the program very interesting. This is first time the Academy is holding an e-conference, and there may be some problems in connecting, for which we regret. Once again, on behalf of University and IAN, we welcome to the first day of the International E-Conference of Indian Academy of Neurosciences 2020, starting today, 4th October, Sunday. We are excited for what the next 4 days hold in store for all of us and look forward to your active participation. I am thankful to our Vice Chancellor and Professor P.N. Tandon and Professor Ramachandran, Professor P.K. Seth, Professor Suresh Ratan, Professor Shashi Bala Madam, who was with me throughout, and all the distinguished neuroscientists for agreeing to our request and grace the inaugural occasion and function today. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my mentors, Professor Habibullah, Professor P.G. Gupta, and Professor William J. Schwartz for their support always. Thank you. I now request Dr. V.K. Khanna, Professor at Lucknow, IITR, and also Secretary Headquarters, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, to give address. Over to Professor Vinay Khanna, sir.
विनय जी अनम्यूट कर लें.
Am I audible now?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Can
you're
you hear
audible.
me?
Yes, go ahead.
Can you hear me from here?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you, Dr. Khanna. Please go ahead.
Can you?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. We can hear, we can see
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Dr. Anita. I really consider it as a privilege to have this opportunity to be connected on this digital platform. And digitally connected dignitaries, fellows, council members, and members of the
I
Academy.
request Dr. V.K. Khanna, sir, to take over.
Members of the Academy, distinguished neuroscientists from India and abroad, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, present on this virtual platform. Am I audible now?
Khanna,
Yes, you
sir,
are.
please be
Okay.
louder. You are not audible.
No, you are not. You are audible, but you are not visible.
I'm right on the desk. My video is on.
Yeah,
So even
please
though
go ahead.
even though we
You
are
are
miles,
audible like Varanasi.
even though we are miles apart and physically located in different continents, this digital platform in the virtual world has connected us in these unprecedented times. These days, the pandemic has imposed restrictions and has created difficulties in attending the meetings in person. But we have utilized this as an opportunity to sit in the comfort of our homes or workplaces and attend the conference. As is well known, the Academy has been actively promoting neurosciences as one of its major initiatives since its inception. It is a great moment that amongst us, one of the senior most neuroscientists from India is present. It is not his age, but his experience, wisdom, and extraordinary talent that speaks of his persona. I am sure you are able to identify the person whom I am referring to, connected on this virtual dais. Yes, I am talking about Padma Vibhushan Professor P.N. Tandon, who has always been a role model for us. The other notable personality connected to this e-conference from United States is Padma Bhushan V.S. Ramachandran, popularly known as Marco Polo of neuroscience. Sir, I sincerely apologize for the inconvenience caused to connect with us in early hours of this morning from California, but believe me, this is your affection for your nears and dears, and we all would be happy and privileged to listen to you. We are also grateful to Dr. Appa Rao Podeli, Honorable Vice Chancellor of the University of Hyderabad, for having spared his time for this conference. I see that Dr. M.K. Thakur, Dean, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Dr. Pankaj Seth, General Secretary, Dr. S. Dayananda, Dean from SLS, University of Hyderabad, Dr. Kota Arun Kumar, and many other precious gems from the University of Hyderabad who are connected to this function. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to share that from amongst the founders, Professor P.K. Seth is also with us on this virtual platform. I really appreciate the commitment and dedication of the pioneers in promoting and catalyzing the neuroscience research in the country. The Academy now has a robust network of neuroscientists from the premier institutions of the country with excellent amalgamation of basic and clinical researchers. It thus provides a unique forum and platform for interaction among the neuroscientists from India and abroad. The beauty of the Academy is that members have good neurochemistry among them and thus acceptability to move forward to achieve the targets for the betterment of the mankind. The Indian Academy of Neurosciences has strong linkages with the premier international neuroscience agencies, especially the International Brain Research Organization, Federation of Asian and Oceanian Neuroscience Societies, Japanese Neuroscience Society, and Australian Neuroscience Society, and many others. Despite the fact that advances in neurosciences have taken great leaps in recent years, through synchronized and concerted efforts of both basic and clinical researchers, the functioning of brain still largely remains a mystery. The theme for this conference, Basic and Clinical Neurosciences, Bridging the Gaps, identified by the organizers, is thus perfect to move in the direction to unravel the mysteries. I appreciate the efforts of Dr. Anita Jagota and her colleagues in all sincerity for their endeavors in drawing an interesting scientific program under the able guidance of Dr. Shashi Bala Singh, the President of Indian Academy of Neurosciences. While we will not be able to visit the heritage sites as well as miss the flavor of actual cuisines of Hyderabad, this time I am sure the delegates will enjoy the scientific feast being served on this digital platform. I am confident that exchange of ideas among the participants on the virtual platform during this e-conference will definitely lead to formulation of strategies for the future as well as laying down of milestones towards achieving higher plateaus on the Everest of neuroscience. A large number of young researchers attending this meeting will find it a rewarding and satisfying experience. They will also get the opportunity to establish new synaptic contacts with functional networks. One additional advantage that I can see is that delegates have saved on their pearl purchases because Hyderabad is normally famous for. The spouses may not be happy in that case, in the absence of the pearls, but they will definitely be enthralled due to the non-absence of their working partners at home. Thanks for your kind attention and patient listening. Jai Hind.
I now request Dr. Pankaj Seth, Professor at NBRC, Manesar, General Secretary, General Secretary, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, to give his address. Over to Professor Pankaj Seth.
Thank you, everybody, and good evening, good afternoon, good morning, because we are working in different time zones today. It is indeed a great pleasure to serve as a General Secretary with the full sense of responsibility for this largest organization of neuroscientists in the country. As you know, we have around 1,500 members, and we have added 69 new members this year. The Academy is growing with the usual steady pace, and we are adding new budding neuroscientists into this Academy. With that, the Academy is also growing academically as it should, and we are hosting more and more seminars through local chapters, activities of brain awareness, or activities of scientific neuroscience cutting edge lectures. And a good example of that is we have been very fortunate that Professor V.S. Ramachandran has agreed to be part of this webinar series under this IN meeting, the 38th annual meeting. I am very grateful to all the organizers, especially Dr. Anita Jagota and Dr. Shashi Bala Singh at Hyderabad. Against all the odds, we had a meeting in June, and we were kind of not very sure what to do with the meeting. Either we could have a skip year this year or have a small just plenary lectures and maybe one or two distinguished lectures. But then the entire EC, came together and we decided that we'll drop a full program and we'll have this virtual meeting in terms of a webinar. And you will be surprised that, when we started, we had just a couple of people, but as the word spread, a lot of people, when we had a call for proposals, we had around 11 proposals which came in, actually a little more. And then we had a hard time to, find out which ones to accept and which ones to drop. And finally, Dr. Anita Jagota and Dr. Shashi Bala Singh, along with the other local organizing scientific committee, had drawn up this wonderful, enriching scientific program, which I am sure you all will join us for all 4 days. And usually we have this meeting for 3 days. We have this one for 4 days. We're starting today, and we're having our valedictory on October 7th. With that, I would now hand over back to Dr. Anita Jagota, and I'm thankful to everybody who is joining this platform. And I'm glad to see that almost there are 115, 120 participants, even on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you so much, and back to Dr. Anita Jagota.
Thank you, Dr. Pankaj, sir. And now I request Professor Mahendra K. Thakur, sir, Dean, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Professor at Banaras Hindu University, to give his Dean's address. Professor Thakur, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Dr. Anita. Respected Professor Tandon, other dignitaries, friends, and participants to INE conference. It's my pleasure to introduce two newly elected fellows of Indian Academy of Neurosciences and tell about their significant contributions in brief for which they have been elected. First, let me introduce Dr. Rajnikant Misra, who is professor at the Department of Zoology, Banaras Hindu University. Dr. Misra has research interest in neurobiology of aging, and he has used cellular and molecular approaches to understand the molecular mechanism of paired box PAX6 and PAX5 genes and proteins. He has reported localization and expression of these proteins in different regions of the brain and also in microglia. He has established direct association of PAX6 and PAX5 with neurodegeneration, neuroprotection, and immunity of brain. Dr. Misra has published more than 50 research articles in peer-reviewed journals and many book chapters. He is actively involved in activities of local chapter of IN at Varanasi. And for these contributions, he has been elected Fellow of Indian Academy of Neurosciences. The next fellow who was elected last year is Dr. Subodh Kumar Jain. Dr. Jain is presently professor and head Department of Biotechnology at Dr. Hari Singh Gaur University, Sagar. He is also fellow of National Academy of Sciences, India, and his main research area is stress physiology and alcohol metabolism. Dr. Jain has reported importance of oxytocin and vasopressin in stress and stress-related diseases. He has established the regulatory role of dopamine, serotonin, and thyrotropin-releasing hormone on prolactin secretion. Dr. Jain has published more than 70 research papers and is actively engaged in contribution to neuroscience. We congratulate both fellows, newly elected fellows, Professor Rajnikant Misra and Professor Subodh Kumar Jain, for getting the honor of fellowship of Indian Academy of Neurosciences. And we believe that they will contribute their best to the Academy and promote its growth to greater heights. Thank you everybody. Over to Dr. Anita.
Thank you, Professor Thakur, sir. I now request Professor S. Dayananda, Dean School of Life Sciences, University of Hyderabad, and request to welcome all the delegates. Professor Dayananda, sir. Professor Dayanand sir, फोन करूं क्या? हैं? आपने बोला था ना he has joined. उसको भेज, आपने बोला ज्वाइन कर लिया. आप उनको बोलो एक बार रीजॉइन. हेलो. Hello. So we came across first technical hinge. Professor Dayanand has joined us from his home, but he is able to view us and also he is able to hear us, but somehow we are not able to hear him, it seems. So he has asked me to welcome on his behalf all the delegates to this auspicious meeting in School of Life Science in Indian Academy of Neurosciences. He asked me to welcome delegates on his behalf. He is still trying on phone. Maybe I request now Professor Apparao Podili, Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, who is the guest of honor for today's inaugural function, to give his inaugural address. Professor Apparao Podili, our very active and like he guides us from front, we would say. If I start his CV, he will lose his time. So over to Professor Apparao, sir.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to the participants, because I know all of you have joined from different parts of the world. Respected Professor Tandon, who is the chief guest for the function, Professor Ramchandran, who has joined from United States, Professor Shashibala Singh, the president of Indian Academy of Neurosciences and a good friend of mine, and Dr. V.K. Khanna, Secretary Headquarters, Professor Pankaj Seth, General Secretary, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, and Mahendra Thakurji, Dean of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, my colleague who could not welcome, that is Professor Dayananda, the Dean School of Life Sciences, Professor Anita Jagota, the person behind this meeting, the person who has worked for this meeting for quite some time. Professor Prakash Babu, another colleague of mine, who is an active member of neurosciences, and my other colleague, Professor Arun Kumar. And I just heard two names, Professor Mishra and Professor Subodh Jain, who got elected to the fellowship of the Academy. I welcome all of you and other delegates for this international e-conference being organized jointly by Department of Animal Biology, School of Life Sciences, University of Hyderabad, and the NIPER Hyderabad. I saw a good chemistry between NIPER and the University of Hyderabad, the Department of Animal Biology, in working out a good program. When Professor Anita brought to me the program, I was really happy to see the kind of program, the technical program, that there was a mention about it, that one may miss the Hyderabad feast, but one would not miss the subject content and the kind of lectures and the symposia that are planned. You are not going to miss anything. And in fact, they are even better for reasons better known to all of us, that many of you, many of the, from the other sessions, people might not have joined by now. When I looked at the profile of the speakers, it would not be possible for all of them to travel to Hyderabad from different parts of the world if it were to be a physical meeting. So let us take this as a plus point, that we are doing it as a meeting online, and a meeting which has forced, maybe it is forced by COVID, but it is an advantage. Let us take it as an advantage that we are going to have a wonderful meeting these 4 days. And I wanted to share something. I know Professor Tannen is, when she said that Professor Tannen is joining for the inaugural, I was actually thrilled. It would have been nice to have him here, but anyway, we will be able to listen to him, such a fatherly figure in neuroscience area. And many of you, I think Anita made a brief mention and Professor Dayananda could not speak. Maybe he would have highlighted more about what the School of Life Sciences at University of Hyderabad is. And University of Hyderabad is, let me share with you for just 2 minutes, has been an institution of eminence for the last 1 year under the Ministry of Human Resource Development, now Ministry of Education. And we are among the only 3 universities which have been recognized as institutions of eminence, along with IITs and also the Institute of Science. And that makes us a distinct group of institution. And in fact, among the universities, among the 10 institutions of eminence, University of Hyderabad has another distinction. Let me share with you that we are smallest and youngest of all these institutions of eminence that are recognized, which speaks volumes about the way in which the research and teaching happens at University of Hyderabad and the way the faculty engage themselves in research. Coming to School of, we have 12 schools of study, and in addition, we have a College for Integrated Studies, which has been offering a flagship program that integrated studies at both at arts level, both for arts and science students. We call it as integrated MA and integrated MSc. And these 12 schools are highly specialized. And you are with one of the schools, that is School of Life Sciences. A School of Life Sciences is one of the largest science schools, rather the largest science school in the university, with close to 60 faculty members. And a good number of them, interestingly, are working in neuroscience. That the 55, 60 of us are in different disciplines as such, but there are a few who are centered around this neuroscience area of research, including, of course, anchored by Professor Anita and Professor Prakash Babu. And earlier we had a colleague, a senior colleague, Professor Radhakrishna Murthy, and several others also have been engaged in this. So we are proud that my colleague, Professor Anita, is organizing and anchoring this event and then making it available globally for all of us to understand the developments, especially when I looked at the aim of the conference, e-conference, being the bridging the gap between the basics and the translation, primarily looking at the translation part of it, is something which is welcome, which the government of India always has been emphasizing for the past maybe a few years, that we must spend our energies more towards translation, and we can't afford to be all the time stuck. Not that they don't want us to do basic research, but they don't want us to be stuck only at the basic science all the time, and want us to show something which will be useful to the society. And that's what is our mandate and an institution of eminence. And my colleagues are all geared up to do that. I will only say that as the head of the institution at this point in time, that all of you, we have missed you here at University of Hyderabad, and you all have missed one important thing, a beautiful green campus. You would have enjoyed, loved to have stayed for these 3-4 days and enjoyed the campus in addition to the lectures that are organized. Such a wonderful scene at this point in time at University of Hyderabad, but unfortunately you are all missing that. But sometime later, and some of you must have already visited, some of you, those of you who have not visited, please take some time and join us. We have a wonderful support given by the Department of Biotechnology to the School of Life Sciences in the name of Builder program, one of the biggest supports that the Department of Biotechnology has given in the recent times. And so we will have ample opportunity to invite several of the scholars from all over the country and even from abroad to share their experiences with us at School of Life Sciences. So with this, I would, because I'm not a neuroscientist, I would not like to venture talking about neuroscience in amidst of a galaxy of scientists who are deeply engaged in this area of research. I only wish that this meeting goes very well and with minimum technical hitches. We are now learning to adjust to these new normals, and there may be here and there small difficulties. I'm sure as we move on, these minimum hindrances also will be overcome by the organizers, because she's taking support from the technical team, and I hope all of them will, there will not be such difficulties in the next 3 days for you. And once again, I take this opportunity both on behalf of University of Hyderabad and also on my own behalf to welcome all of you to this wonderful e-conference being organized by as an annual meeting, being organized by the Indian Academy of Neurosciences and hosted by my department of Animal Biology at School of Life Sciences, jointly with NIPER. And so the two ladies now will take it forward. These 4 days, you will have wonderful time. Professor Shashibala and Professor Anita Jagota will be handling all these technical sessions in the most appropriate way. Thank you very much and good luck to all.
Thank you very much, sir, once again. And I'm really thankful to you for giving the inaugural guest of honor address and highlighting the audience about the achievements by the University of Hyderabad and how under your leadership, our university is growing to the new heights and achieving new goals. And thank you once again, sir. And I now request Professor Dr. Shashibala Singh, who is co-host and President of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, to give her presidential remarks. Dr. Shashibala, madam.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Anita. Namaskar to everyone who have joined us online. Respective chief guest, Padma Bhushan Professor P.N. Tandon sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, Padma Bhushan Professor Ramachandran, who is joining us from US, honorable past presidents of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Executive Council members, friends, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. It is good evening for us, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. On behalf of Indian Academy of Neurosciences, I welcome you all to the inaugural function of 38th Annual Conference of Indian Academy of Neuroscience being held through e-conference. The Indian Academy of Neurosciences is 38 years old, baby. Born in the year 1982, it has established itself as a national body of the neuroscientists, thanks to our past leaders, mentors, and their untiring efforts. The neuroscience is advancing rapidly, especially in the last 2 decades. Enormous progress has been made in artificial intelligence, neural integration, pharmacotherapies for patients of neurological disorders, brain-machine interface, etc. These developments only come from the amalgamation of basic and clinical neuroscience. However, I still feel that the basic scientists and the clinicians are working in silos and require more hand-holding to hasten the development of neurosciences for different clinical disorders and better neurocognition. I think the left hand doesn't know what right hand is doing, so we need to break these silos. Thus, the theme of the conference, Basic and Clinical Neurosciences, Bridging the Gaps, is of considerable importance and relevance in the light of present ongoing pandemic, which has taught us how to work in synergy to tackle the problems. The boundaries between clinical neuroscience discipline are being blurred as they are increasingly affected by basic neuroscience investigations and vice versa. Translation neuroscience, which refers to the application of basic knowledge in the clinic, is among the most rapidly developing branches of medical sciences. Yeah. And intending to bridge the gap between basic and clinical neurosciences by transferring the new discoveries from bench to bedside. Pandemic COVID-19 crisis has created many opportunities for all of us. For example, speed and innovation. Those organizations which suffered from slow procedures due to complex bureaucracies, the coronavirus has forced many of them to break these rigid systems and act instantly. This leads to remarkable innovation which can be maintained after the crisis. And it can also help to keep the current speed and innovation mode even after this pandemic COVID-19 is over. The basic and clinical scientists both need to speak the same language. This will be the most important step for addressing the neuroscience challenges in India. The conference, which will commence by plenary sessions, symposia, invited talk, young scientist colloquia, poster sessions, and many other things. I want to thank Dr. Anita Jagota, Dr. Prahlad Seth, Dr. V.K. Khanna, and Dr. Pankaj Seth. They are the main architect of designing this scientific program. I am sure all of us will enjoy these 4 days where we will have a lot of deliberation in different areas of neurosciences. My dear students who have joined us today, I would like to say that neuroscience is rapidly growing discipline world over, and neuroscience students are being carried out in several research. Neuroscience is being carried out in several research institutes and universities in India. So job opportunities in neurosciences are fairly high. Come join hands with the neuroscientists, and please come and join hands, do science and innovate with the neuroscientists which are there all over the world. My message to the mid-career and senior colleagues is to highlight the importance of translation research. I think we need to really promote and advocate translation research and promote the training and mentoring of the next generation neuroscientists. Training and workshop on how to write a good manuscripts and proposals for capacity building of young neuroscientists will be very fruitful. At the end, I want, on behalf of Indian Academy of Neuroscience, I once again welcome you all, the faculty, the delegates to the 38th annual meeting of Indian Academy of Neurosciences. I'm sure the e-conference will be a great success with the effort of dedication put by the organizers, the hosts from the IT city of Hyderabad. I wish you all safe and successful days ahead. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi Bala, Madam, for giving the presidential address and highlighting the beauty of the theme Basic and Clinical Neurosciences, Bridging the Gaps, and the need of the hour for the basic neuroscientists and clinicians to come together. And with this, I request now the father figure of neuroscience in India, Professor Prakash and Tandon, also founder president NBRC, Manesar, to give his address, the chief guest of this function. Professor Tandon, sir.
Dr. Shashiwala Singh, President IAN, Dr. Anita Jagota, the organizing secretary, all the officers of the Academy, and the fellow members of the Academy. It is a privilege, of course, to be able to be given this opportunity to say a few words. It is important for me because the founders of this academy, especially Dr. K.P. Bhargava, Dr. B.N. Dhawan, Dr. P.K. Seth, Dr. Parmar, they're all personal friends of mine. When this academy was started, the first idea of starting this academy was really 5-6 years earlier than when it was registered, in a meeting that was held in Aligarh, where several neuroscientists had gathered together. They felt the need of having a society of neuroscience. Then they realized suddenly that there is already a society of neuroscience. Anyway, it was in 1983 or 84, around that time, that the academy was finally registered. And during the first annual meeting, which I had the pleasure to attend, there were just 70 members who were present. That's the time we in the clinical neurosciences were gravely concerned about the lack of progress in basic neuroscience. Clinical neuroscience during that time, from 1950 till that 1983-84, had advanced quite a lot in this country. But whatever basic neuroscience was being done in the country was very sparse. Few people here and there. I could name most of them because I lived with them. They were my friends. A few in All India Institute, in CDRI, in ITRC, in CMC Vellore. The total number of those who were doing basic neuroscience would be virtually less than 50. Not only that, most of them were not integrated even among themselves. They were either neuroanatomists, neurophysiologists, neurobiochemists, neuropharmacologists, neuropathologists, but even they were not together in taking neuroscience further. You may think we were very late. I don't know how many of you know that the Society of Neuroscience in US was only thought of in 1970. And in the first meeting that took place 4 or 5 years later, there were no more than a few hundred neuroscientists attended the meeting. That's the progress that has taken place now. India has made some progress. There are today the total number of members and fellows of Indian Academy of Neuroscience would certainly be around 600, 700, maybe 1,000, but still they are inadequate. I like to just say that even the word neuroscience was not coined earlier enough. Neurology was coined. The word neurology was coined by Willis, Thomas Willis, in 1600, but not the term neuroscience, which is also a very recent origin. Addressed this issue and made a statement which I'd like to read out to you. I see the field of neurosciences as quite broad, including virtually any activity that contributes to an understanding of the biological basis of mental activity, regardless of the species, whether in health or in disease. As a matter of fact, I had, in one of my addresses, I had stated very briefly that neuroscience research is a continuum of a study from molecular to behavioral level. It encompasses the body of research directed towards understanding the molecular, cellular, intercellular processes mediated through electrochemical signals in the nervous system, integrated to subserve human behavior. So it is surprising that there is no branch of knowledge which does not consider, which could not be considered as a part of neuroscience, which includes psychology, psychiatry, philosophy, and on the one side, electric engineering, artificial intelligence, brain-machine interaction on the other hand, and one can go on this thing. The fact is, if we keep in mind what we want to do as not basic scientists, I would remove the word basic scientist because there is no boundary today between basic scientists and the clinical scientists. They must merge into one with the specific purpose to know the human brain, which is the last frontier of ignorance of human knowledge. We know about the atom, we know about the gene, we still don't know about the mind. And mind and brain are interrelated. At least that much is now accepted whether by philosophers or by scientists or by any group of individuals. The next thing, which is of great importance primarily to the clinician, but without the help of the basic sciences, it cannot be done, is to protect the human brain from disease and the effect of the disease. And that's where neurology, neurosurgery, psychiatry, behavioral science, all those come in. Obviously, the clinicians have to treat the brain diseases, but what is becoming the future of neuroscience is to recreate the human brain. You might have just read a few days ago in the newspaper, we are now thinking that we are coming near to it. I don't know how near, but we still are very far. But that's one of the aim, because if we could do that, you can now culture neurons. You can culture neurons in association with the glial cells together for so that is the future that we look at. And ultimately, of course, what centuries or millennia ago people started to talk about we are still talking about it, is to know your mind. If we know our mind, the mystery of mind has still defied all sciences as a basic, clinical, or the natural sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, and whatnot. I welcome all of you to this meeting, and I'm sure that you will have a wonderful time with the type of organizers that you have. And it is a pity that we are not meeting together. We are just seeing each other's face, the shadows of each other's face, unlike what we used to do before, to meet, shake hands, and hug each other in the friendly manner that is so common to this academy. Wishing you all the best for your future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor P.N. Tandon, sir, for your address as chief guest and also showing us the future path, how we should keep bridging the gap between the clinical and the basic neurosciences and the need for working hard in this area. Now, I request my colleague, Professor Kota Arun Kumar, to give vote of thanks for this inaugural function.
Madam, you're able to hear me?
Yes.
Just a minute. My greetings to everyone who are at different time zones of the world. It is a privilege and great.
Professor Arun, you can switch on your video. Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yeah. It is a privilege and great joy for me to extend a vote of thanks to all those who are present for the inauguration of the International Indian Academy of Neurosciences e-conference. I would like to thank the guests.
Dr. Kota, you got muted somehow.
Yeah.
Professor Arun, we could not hear you. Can you repeat?
Yeah, can I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it is a privilege and great joy for me to extend a vote of thanks to all those who are present for the inauguration of the International Indian Academy of Neurosciences e-conference. I would like to thank the guest of honor, Professor Apparao Kodile, Vice Chancellor, University of Hyderabad, and Chief Guest, Professor P.N. Tandon, for their valuable time. I would also like to thank Professor S. Dayananda, Dean School of Life Sciences, University of Hyderabad, for his continuous support. I would also like to extend my gratitude to the volunteers and infrastructure support team who worked hard in setting this up for us. Special thanks to the speakers and participants who will be participating over the next 4 days. I would also like to thank the sponsors, University of Hyderabad, which is an institution of eminence, NIPER Hyderabad, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, and EJN for all the financial support. Thank you, one and all. Back to Professor Aparna, Anita, Madam.
Thank you, Professor Arun, for extending the vote of thanks. And I'm really grateful to everyone for joining the function and giving the valuable time. The delegates and the guests who could speak in this function and those who were on the audience side, like Professor Raj Mehra, Professor N.K. Mehra, Professor Ishan Patro, Professor Nisha Patro, and so on. So I thank everyone, and we look forward that the next 4 days you will enjoy the academic feast, which has been designed with the help of all the eminent scientists, their input and their suggestions. And I once again thank, and we break for 5 minutes, and please be there on the same link for the next session after 5 minutes.